Well, there you all are. Hello, everyone, and we're so glad you can be with us tonight, right here on the Six Screens Telenetwork, JW World News. That's the news the Watchtower doesn't want us talking about, but boy, we got a lot to talk about tonight. Well, my name is Rick Farron. I'm coming to you from the apostate capital of the world, right up here in Boston, Massachusetts. And man, we are seeing more and more apostates every day. We're running into them up here, and they're going to be showing up where you are. So don't get, don't say, geez, Rick, I'm jealous. I wish I was up in Boston where there's a lot of apostates. Well, don't you worry. They're coming to you soon, wherever you are. The Watchtower is hemorrhaging. More and more people are leaving. So you're going to be in good company. You're going to be in good company. Well, I'm so glad you could come in tonight. Boy, we've been doing this program now for going on 18 years. As a matter of fact, it'll be 18 years in January. And I have to tell you, we never missed a Saturday night. We are here because you are here. Really, people really rely on this program. And it's not just me sitting here bloviating behind my Six Screens desk. It's all the people that call in. They make the program. I tell you, that's what makes the program. To listen to people in real time call into the Six Screens. People love that. And it helps people realize, I can sit here all night long and talk about the Watchtower, but when they hear you are part of the program. This is an interactive program. You are part of it. Unlike a lot of YouTube videos, you are part of this. This is in real time. And the only one really that does it like this, in real time, where people call in and voice their opinions on what's going on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. Well, let me just start off here. I try to search all over the internet. I try to come up with the top stories that are going on behind the curtains, as we say. And also, I have so many people that email me. They call me even. They leave messages on my phone. This is like a Watchtower News clearinghouse here at the Six Screens. And I want you to keep doing that. Thank you for sending me the news. I get articles every day, 24 hours a day. My little phone is dinging with what's going on behind the curtains. So anyways, there's something that I really looked at kind of in a funny way. It's something that came across the internet, and it has to do with junior pioneering. Have you ever heard of anything like this? Young children making somewhat of a contract with the Watchtower, or at least with their local congregation, that they are going to reach out and get more time in service. I'm going to show you a picture. You might get a kick out of it. I'm going to put it up if you're on YouTube and Facebook. Well, there's the little contract right there. I tell you what, it's a little bit disturbing. It really, really is when you think about it. But anyways, what that contract says, now it shows little pictures of little cartoons. It looks like, a little cartoon girl, little cartoon boy. Junior Pioneer application form, special campaign for 2020-23, September, October, and November. Now, this isn't something the Watchtower is putting out, but I'm sure the Watchtower would encourage this. This is like on an individual congregation basis. But let's listen to what the little children have to agree to. Because I love Jehovah and want people to learn about him, I, and then a line to put your name in, say Bobby Smith, promise to try my best to spend, then another line, how many hours in the ministry during the months of September, October, or November. So you have to kind of put how many hours you're going to spend in the ministry. Well, little Bobby Smith, so you put down 12. I'll spend 12 hours in the ministry during September 2023. I will work hard to speak or write to as many people as I can about Jehovah and his kingdom during the special campaign. And then the junior pioneer, Bobby Smith, he will sign it, and then the parent's signature, and then they dated. That's a little form you're looking at right there if you're on YouTube. Now, I got some problems with this. I'm sure if you're listening in, you have problems too. Something isn't passing the smell test here. First of all, you can't really get into a contract with a minor. Now, I know it's kind of like a spoof here, but nonetheless, you're asking a minor to sign, on the dotted line that they're going to get so many hours in a month. So all this does is garner attention from young children and puts them under pressure. And imagine being, a little witness kid, and mommy and daddy comes to you, the elder, did you sign the contract, Bobby? It's putting pressure on these little kids. I just see something wrong with this. Maybe you don't, but I wouldn't want to be put under that pressure. When I was a little Jehovah's Witness boy, I can't believe that the organization actually have resorted to fantasy cartoon characters like they have on this little farm. They're really trying to attract youth. They need the youth. That is the future of Jehovah's Witnesses. So any way they can do it, they're going to do their best to try to attract the youth. I found this a little bit over the top, but Watchtower, in my estimation, will do anything it takes to keep this organization running. But I can just imagine, there's a lot of little children that, and I don't know what the age limit is here, but I'd say, before you're 15, 16, the elders will be approaching you. Hey, Bobby, hey, Cindy, would you like to sign the Junior Pioneer form? And then the parents sign it and they make a big deal out of it. Hitler did similar things. I can only think of similar things Hitler did. He really believed in a youth corps. And I see the Watchtower doing something very similar here. They're really mustering up young children, with the Sapphire and Caleb cartoon series they have. They're really trying to attract young children, a youth group, a youth force, as you would, as Hitler did. Get them when they're young, train them, get them to obey the Gestapo, in this case, the Watchtower. So very similar technique that's being used here. Now, you might be sitting back and going, come on, Rick, I don't see it that bad. Hey, let me tell you something. I do. I see this not a good thing. You give a person an inch, the old saying, they're going to take a mile. And this is what the Watchtower is doing. They're stepping in here. Now, first of all, let me just clarify something. This isn't a farm from the Watchtower. This is a farm from a local congregation. I don't know how many congregations have got these little farms they're handing out, but evidently a number of them, because I came across this. So it's something that deserves attention. I'm not going to beat the story to death, but it's a way to indoctrinate young people to become pioneers or to get more time in. And more time means more money for the Watchtower, right? Get them when they're early. So I thought I wanted to bring that up tonight. I actually had that story on for last week, but we didn't get to talk about it last week. We got so busy talking about Selena Vertolomo. We're not going to talk about her tonight. Enough for Selena tonight. We're going to get back to our regular news, so don't you worry about it. So anyways, another thing I wanted to talk about tonight is, there's a big focus as of late everywhere I look on the internet. The midweek meetings, they are talking a lot. They're putting a big focus on apostates. Oh yeah, almost every meeting they're talking about apostates. And obviously they're trying to condemn, or at least throw a shadow over every apostate that lives. So that's what they're talking about, the meetings this last week. In fact, many of the midweek meetings, that's what they brought up. Now listen to this. I want you to listen closely to this. That the Watchtower is very clever on how they write. Well, we all know that. It's almost like hypnotic, right? It is hypnotic. Let's go with that. But anyways, what they brought up at the service meeting that they have, that's the clam meeting. is what they call it. What they were saying in the meeting this week is, how could others test our loyalty to Jehovah? So that was the question that was asked to the audience. How could others test our loyalty to Jehovah? Well, you get all the witnesses sitting in the Kingdom Hall, and they hear a question like that. So now they're scratching their head. Well, let's see, how are people testing our loyalty to Jehovah? And then they went on to say, some people will try to prevent us from serving Jehovah. Yeah, now that's a startling statement, right? Some people will try to prevent us from serving Jehovah. Now, who would do such a thing? This is a question that was being asked of the congregation. So some of these people who would prevent us from serving Jehovah, well, who would ever think of doing such a thing like that? Now, some who have left the truth, well, they tell lies about God's organization in order to destroy our faith. Well, first of all, I have to ask the question, faith in what? Faith in God or faith in the Watchtower? See, that statement, I could put a lot of legs on that statement. So they're asking the congregation, some who have left the truth, or they're saying to the congregation, some who have left the truth tell lies about Jehovah's organization in order to destroy our faith. Well, the legs I'm putting on it is, again, I have to say, when you speak Watchtower, that is synonymous with Jehovah, that they are one and the same. So no one's trying to destroy your faith in God, even as an apostate. All of us listening in today, I wouldn't try to destroy a person's faith in God. I don't think there's any value in doing that. But I certainly would try to destroy one's faith concerning the Watchtower. I would do my best to get them to find the exit door at the Kingdom Hall. So they're saying, well, who are these people that are trying to destroy our faith in Jehovah? Well, wait a minute. I have to tell you something. They are called, according to the Watchtower here, they call them apostates. I'm proud to be an apostate. Now, I know there's plenty listening in here. Rick, don't use the word apostate. Don't use that word. Use freedom fighter. You use these other terms that some of the ex-witness community have come up with. But I like the term apostate. By definition, an apostate is one who stands aside from one's teaching or one's policies. Well, isn't that us? Don't we stand aside from the Watchtower and their policies? I mean, you can be an apostate of anything. It doesn't have to be the Watchtower. You can be an apostate of a McDonald's. Maybe you don't like the Big Mac sauce. Maybe you don't like the quarter-pound hamburgers. I mean, so you don't go and do business with McDonald's. You could be an apostate of McDonald's. So you see, I don't mind using the word apostate. And also some religious leaders, this is what the Watchtower was saying in the service meeting, you see, this week, the clam meeting. Also, some religious leaders spread false information about us to cause unsuspecting ones to leave the truth. Some religious leaders spread false information. Well, I'd like to know, the Watchtower always is very clever. They're saying some religious leaders. Well, why don't they name a religious leader that is spreading false information? I mean, there's a lot that I can think of, really a lot that I can think of that would have a lot to say critically about the Watchtower. Why don't they use the names? See, because if you really put some of these ones that are giving information about the Watchtower, you'll find they're right. Like John Ankerberg, for example. He's a religious leader on TV, the Daystar Network. He speaks about the Watchtower. He talks about their false doctrines. Watchtower, why don't you name these people? No, but just leave it like it is and hope that people will believe it. Because they don't want people looking up John Ankerberg and seeing what he had to say about the Watchtower. I mean, John Ankerberg, if you ever watched him, I'll tell you what, he's a real fighter for truth. He speaks a lot about how evil the Watchtower is. As a matter of fact, in his book that he wrote, along with another author, they wrote it together, he speaks of the Watchtower organization as being a hate group. Yes, you heard me right, a hate group. That's what this religious leader is calling the Watchtower. Does he have the authority to say that? Is there any credibility behind the fact that the Watchtower is a hate group? Yes, it is. As a matter of fact, in Ankerberg's book, which I have, he talks about the Watchtower being right up there with the skinheads and the KKK. They're a hate group. Yes, they are.
What's the name of the book?
I don't have it here in front of me, sister. I'm sorry. That's Anne Marie. I'll let you know. I don't have the book in front of me. I'm just kind of talking off the record here. Remember, that's what he said. But he talks about the Watchtower as being a hate group. And that's what they are. And, if you don't like that, if you're a witness listening in, you're saying, well, we're not a hate group. We love people. Well, examine the facts. If you're going to show hatred toward people that leave the Watchtower, and they do, I can show you Watchtower articles that support that very saying, that when a person is no longer wanting to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses, then he has to be shown hate. You have to hate the one that is leaving the Watchtower. That's a fact. So anyways, we have, this is in the clan meeting this week, they're talking about, apostates. Once again, they're doing this all the time now. So they're talking about apostates. They're saying, don't ever argue with any apostate or opposer of Jehovah's Witnesses. Now stop and scratch your head. Well, why wouldn't you? Well, why is the Watchtower saying don't argue with an apostate? Don't argue with an opposer. Don't read their books or blogs. Don't go to their websites. Don't watch their videos. Now think about it. Now, come on, you guys are smart. We got a very smart audience here. So what do you think? Well, why would the Watchtower say don't argue with an opposer or an apostate? Bingo, you got it. Because they know darn well that the apostate or the opposer would win the argument, hands down. The witness wouldn't have a chance. They wouldn't have a chance to even defend themselves. Wouldn't you just love to get a Jehovah's Witness, if they came to your door and you invited them into your living room and you said, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Witness, I'll tell you what, I want you to tell me about your religion. I will not speak a word for 10 minutes. I want you to tell me everything you know about your religion, and I won't say a word. I'll listen intently. But when you are done giving your narrative about your religion, I want 10 minutes to give you my thoughts on it, but you can't speak up either. Wouldn't that be a wonderful situation? Well, that's never going to happen, because the witness, first of all, they're being encouraged not to even talk to you. But if you could, the Watchtower knows, if you could just even talk with an active Jehovah's Witness, you could very easily move them aside from the truth, right? If you want to call it the truth. So, first of all, I'm going to tell you something. The Watchtower, they cannot fathom people leaving them and believing in worshiping God and Jesus without the need of an organization. They hate that idea. So there's many, many Jehovah's Witnesses that leave, and they become real Christians, or they become other spiritually minded people. The Watchtower hates that. That's like putting a cross up to Dracula. It just bothers them in the worst way. They can't fathom the fact that people could leave the organization and get spirituality without them. Well, I'll tell you what, that's what they accused me of. I was disfellowshipped back in 2005. And as I always say, that's the year that Satan kicked me out of his organization. Well, let me tell you something. I was disfellowshipped. The reason why they disfellowshipped me. Now look at folks. I was actually protesting in front of the Kingdom Hall. I had 4 or 5 people out holding signs during a meeting. The elders came out. They were wondering, "What are you doing out here, Brother Fredman? What are you doing?" They had no idea I was going to do this. So they came out. They said, "Well, we're going to have a judicial meeting over this." So when I went into the judicial hearing, they didn't accuse me. They didn't just fellowship me for holding signs up and protesting in front of the Kingdom Hall. They said they just fellowship me. Now get this. They accused me of starting my own religion. I didn't start my own religion. What I did is I just had a Bible study, a real Bible study with some extra Jehovah's Witnesses and some interested people. And they accused me. They hate it. They hate it when there's apostates that leave and become real Christians, so to speak. And because listen, you can leave the organization. You don't have to leave God behind, but you don't need an organization to believe in God. So this is an amazing thing, and it's pretty sickening on how the organization continues to blatantly lie about people who have left. We all became materialistic. We all became agents of Satan, the devil. We're all mentally diseased. I mean, all the things that the witnesses have accused us of being. And they blatantly lie to the rank and file about all of us that leave. I guess it's all about money. They don't want to give up their golden cash cow. So they're going to do everything they can to keep people in, because the more people they keep in, the more money they make. And after all, isn't Watchtower all about money? Yep. So, I've been doing the 6 screens here. I've been doing and holding programs on our 6 screens network here for going on 18 years. And I have not found a person yet calling into our programs and lying. The Watchtower says that all of us that leave the Watchtower, we lie. I have not yet in 18 years found anyone that calls into this program and has lied. Let me tell you, most of the people from what I have seen calling into our programs, and many of them, not all, but many are deeply hurt from this Watchtower organization. And some of the people are suffering significant trauma because of being in it. But yet the Watchtower will continue to spew out that all of us apostates are lying. I have never seen an apostate lie here on the 6 screens. I have to tell you that. So the Watchtower, the governing body knows that people are waking up. Jehovah's Witnesses are listening to the apostates. And isn't that good? Keep up all the good work, all of you activists out there. I mean, Kim and Mikey and Cedars even. I know when I mention Cedars, a lot of people don't like him, but he's getting people out. Anybody, critical thinker, all of these people, goat-like personality, Wendy, all of these people, all the people on our network as well, Fran and Joe and Aposta Babe, and all of these people, Anne Marie with her program, all of us are really getting people to wake up, and they're leaving the Watchtower. In the Watchtower, the governing body, they are sweating their butts off, really. So keep up the good work, all you activists, and let's all work together. Well, let's not fight with one another. Let's all be united, and let's go forward, and let's keep throwing bombs at the Watchtower, so to speak. So the governing body, they're biting their nails. But what else can I tell you? Straight up, they realize many people are leaving. And I'm going to tell you right now, there is no way that their figures of 8.7 million people is remotely close to accurate. I want to challenge them on that. That is not an accurate number. They have to keep that number high to keep bringing people, to keep people staying in. Who wants to be in a losing organization? But the Watchtower is losing. That 8.7 million, forget about it. Well, we should be getting the figures soon for 2022. Well, they say soon. Their fiscal year, Watchtower's fiscal year ended in August, and now it starts up in September. So what they used to do was like a month or so after their fiscal year ended, they'd tally up all the reports worldwide and we would get them. When I was a witness, at least that happened. But that doesn't happen anymore. Well, what they're doing now is they're dragging their feet. They might even ditch the figures this year altogether. But, sometime in February, the figures show up. We're talking months later. They're really, I'm telling you right now, the Watchtower is scared to death to release the figures. Now, I know they cook the books, but I mean, you can only cook them so much. At some point, you have to have some accurate figures, or people would start getting a little bit edgy, right? So they waited really late last year. I think the figures came out January or February. So they waited really late last year for the 2021 service year report, and it was with little fanfare. I mean, usually it's like blown all over the place. In the yearbook they used to print, as well as the Watchtower, but they had it on their website. Little fanfare. A lot of people never even saw it. It should be interesting to see what they do this service year. I'm even telling you right now, they're going to be doing worse. Look at all the PMOs. Look at all of the people that have been leaving the Watchtower. It's just unbelievable. And, when I stop and think about it, the Watchtower really is its own enemy. And, as long as they keep telling people, like in the service, in the clam meeting this week, don't talk to apostates. They're trying to ruin your faith. They're doing all this bad and evil stuff. The more the Watchtower talks about it, don't you think that people are going to become more curious? Well, doesn't that happen? Sometimes it can backfire, right? The more you're told not to do something, the more you're saying, geez, well, I'm going to look into this. Now, let me tell you something. Did you ever hear of the Streisand effect? Yes, Streisand. Well, that's Barbara Streisand, right? Yeah, in fact, the Streisand effect is actually named after Barbara Streisand. And this is an actual dynamic, an actual effect that takes place in humanity. And when the Watchtower keeps telling people, don't listen to an apostate, don't go to their website, don't listen to their YouTubes. Well, what's happening is you're now having the Streisand effect come into play. You say, well, Rick, what is a Streisand effect? Well, it's unintended consequences of attempts to hide, remove, or censor information. That's what that's what it is. It's an attempt to hide, but it actually backfires. It actually backfires rather than hide. It draws more. It draws more It actually draws more attention to the issue at hand, and more people begin to want to listen more or see what's being said. Now, the reason why they call it the Streisand effect is Barbara Streisand had a beautiful house in California, on the coastal region in Malibu, California. And it was right on the edge where there was a lot of erosion, and her house was going to inevitably fall into the ocean. And she didn't want to draw any attention to it because she was, from what I can gather here reading, it would, maybe have to take her house down if all this attention came to it. So she tried to get it off the records and censor it and make sure people didn't see it. But the more she did that, the more people saw it. So it kind of backfired on her. So it's the same thing with the apostates. The more they talk about apostates, the more curious they will investigate. So I just want to bring it up tonight because I find it's very fascinating when you stop and think about it. Hey, I'm going to open the lines. Does anyone want to say anything tonight? You want to come in? Come in right now and say hello to us. Hit *6. What do you think? What do you think about?
Mr.
Yeah, I'm on. Yep, go ahead.
Hi. Hi, this is Stephen. You just hit on some really interesting point. I woke up this morning to Jehovah's Witnesses. I went out to my car. They were directly across the street. They kind of startled because I have not seen witnesses in my area since COVID. This is my first time seeing them. So maybe they've been out and I missed them, but this is my very first time coming to see them. And that got me thinking, if they knocked on my door and I would get into a conversation, what would I actually talk about? And a couple things came to my mind. I won't get into it now because it's not, but it really did remind me of the fact how startling it was just to even see witnesses out in the area. And the other thing that was interesting is I didn't recognize any of them. The congregation that I went to, the book study that I attended, that was the actual area that I lived in. And so the fact that I didn't recognize any of these people says to me that they must have heard additional witnesses into that group. And in the amount of time that I've been out, I didn't see them. And so that was another thing that obviously occurred to me, that it's just been attrition. Ever since I was at that congregation, which was about 18 years, I noticed there were less and less people. And so they finally had to merge 3 congregations and split those up into 2, trying to get about 70% attendance. So that's really interesting too. And then lastly, there's a scripture in the Bible that talks about out of the heart's abundance the mouth speaks. And the fact, and I say that to say this, the fact that Watchtower is talking about apostates so much really shows you that the apostates are winning, if you want to look at it that way. And that's why they keep, explaining they're talking about the apostates and not listening to them and not doing research, and they're doing this again. And quite frankly, the environment that we live in, to tell people not to go and investigate something, they're just going to go and investigate it. So this is going to backfire and watch out space. Thank you.
Well, Stephen, thank you. In fact, the duck comes down. It's going to give you a prize because the word tonight, every week now, we have a secret word. And you mentioned the word or the term that's going to win you a prize. And the term is, you mentioned apostates winning. That was our secret word for the night. I meant to announce it before the program. We do secret words now every Saturday night. So you hit the secret word. I mean, I wish we had a little duck come down and give you the prize. Maybe we get a little duck here one of these days. But you said apostates winning. That's the term. You send me your email. You send me your email and jwworldnews@gmail.com, and I'll get you a gift certificate out. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, that's Stephen. Yes. Hello.
Hi, this is Zachary.
Yes.
I guess I should preface what I say with, I guess the definitive thing a person would say is great minds think alike. This is what happened when you mentioned that Junior Pioneers thing. You read out the beginning of it, because I love Jehovah, I promised to, and you started talking about explaining it. And while you were saying all that, I said to myself, I said it out loud, sounds like the Hitler Youth. Then I thought, oh, maybe that's too strong. But 10 seconds later, you said the same thing.
Yeah, no, that resonated with me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought too. It sounds like the Hitler Youth. When you said it, I had to pick myself up off the floor. But probably a lot of other people feel that way. If 2 people had that same feeling, probably a lot of other people had that kind of reaction to hearing it. Sounds like something Hitler would do, get them trained.
Yeah, it's kind of putting pressure on the kids, even the parents, because little Bobby signs up for 12 hours, and then the parents are going, well, Bobby, you said that you do it for Jehovah, come on, Bobby.
Yeah. And then, failure, what happens when you don't do it, and all that failure stuff comes in, so they start out early with the kids, getting them to I guess that it just shows a certain desperation. It really has gone too long, huh?
Yeah.
That's all I had to say.
Well, thank you, Zach. Thanks for checking in with us.
All right.
Okay, it looks like we have got 513. Run with us.
Yeah, it's the King of the Dogs.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Zach, I'm so sorry. Zachary came on, so I had to call. Now he's gone. He fled in fear of me, I guess. But no,
I'm still listening in.
oh, thank you, Zach. We love you, man. And because you come up with good stuff, man. I appreciate it. Anyway, last week I apologize. I used the F word. I want to tell you what my real frustration is. There's now becoming a generation gap occurring between so many witnesses. I had a problem with my younger brother. I have 5 of them, by the way. So I got a problem with all 5 of them, actually. And my brother, he was disfellowshipped in 1992. He's completely over the witnesses, completely. He got together with a bunch of people who were still involved in the apostate movement. And none of these people are disfellowshipped. Only one was disfellowshipped. The others, their wife kicked them out, or their other wife divorced them because they were inactive. This is what's going on, you know. And my brother just doesn't understand why we're so caught up in it. And I talked about the Rick Barron show. I said it's very therapeutic, very helpful to everybody here. They all love the show. But my brother Rick, he had taken a couple of gummies, and he started getting very belligerent, telling us, we're all stuck in the past. We need to get over it and move on. And for me, that's fighting words, okay? Moving on? No, I'm not done. I got work to do. You do too, Rick. We need to go as far as we can to take out this, what do you call, cancerous, malignant thing growing on the ass of religion in this country, and it's Watchtower. And by the way, they started in Pittsburgh, and that's why I've always hated the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I just want to throw that in. Okay.
Well,
That's all I got.
that's a mouthful. Well, thank you very much, King of Dots. Always good to hear from you. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right.
Go Bengals. Go Bengals.
Oh yes, I'm with you. Hey, listen. Well, I mean, that's King of Dots. Boy, things are happening. So we have. It looks like. Well, we've got 831. You're on with us. I believe that's Anne Marie.
Thank you. Yes, I didn't want to interrupt my brothers. Rick, more and more, you mentioned it. The Watchtower is following the pattern and the tactics that the Gestapo used. Remember that in the book, 30 Years of Watchtower Slaves, it's still available on Amazon. In the book, 30 Years, A Watchtower Slave, William J. Schnell, the author, who was a henchman of Rutherford, his right-hand man, was sent by Rutherford into Germany in the 30s to kind of try to figure out what tactics could be used successfully on controlling the brothers in Germany at that time. We know that biologically and genetically, it is known that the German people, and I'm one of them, are known to appreciate rules and structure. They respect authority. They're very loving. They're very compliant. They're obedient. And they like to follow rules. What are the rules? And let's all work it in. Well, when they established the youth campaign, not only were youths encouraged to join the group of Hitler's group, the Gestapo for the Youth group, they were also encouraged subliminally, of course, to see any adult that did not completely support the movement for the youth to join Hitler's regime to be an enemy of the party. So what bothers me the most is to see this new campaign to recruit these little children at the beginning of the school year, by the way, when they're bound to be very stressed and tired and, stressed out over having to acclimate to a new group, to a new classroom, to a new grade. They're being pushed to do this. And if you don't look good. So they're pushing the kids not only want to do this, but they're pushing the parents as well. Because the parents, if they sign, are not only supposedly supporting the children and joining this new youth movement of the Watchtower organization, But now they're putting themselves, the parents are putting themselves on the line to make time to get their little children to whatever little gathering there is for service, to get them to the territory, to make sure they're dressed right, their time, their gas. This is so wrong on so many levels. Thank you so much, my brother.
Wow, that's a good narrative. There's a good comment, Anne Marie. I'm glad you picked up on that and expanded on it, because that's the way I look at it too. Thank you, Anne Marie. Wow, it's just amazing what the Watchtower is doing and getting away with. And then the parents are going to go along with all of this. 603, 602, is it? Let's take a look. It looks like 602. I believe that's Gilbert. What do you have to say, Gilbert?
Hey, Rick, you know why Watchtower is going down and the apostates winning? Because you and I talked about it, and I always talked to you about the Sears thing. But like, I always remember like JCPenney's was going down, and they announced that they're going to start selling appliances. And the people on Wall Street, a lot of them were laughing because they're like, "Hey, we got a better idea. Why don't you stick to clothes?" And that's what's happening with Watchtower. Watchtower is bad, dumb, very dumb management. You have a parking lot at the Kingdom Hall with no basketball court. Kids cannot play basketball at the Kingdom Hall like they do in other churches. In the Mexican churches here in Phoenix, Arizona, they're dancing in the parking lot. The kids go Saturday night to dance and to play music. So I'm all for paying $10 a month. All of you said, well, it's wrong. I'll pay $20 a month. If my kid can go play basketball, he could go and dance, and he can do all kinds of stuff. This is a perfect example of how stupid, I hate to use that word, but the stupid management that the governing body has. And you know, I'm GG for GB, but Rick, anybody who's listening to this show can do a better job managing the organization. And also, the great majority of people that listen that are apostates can give a better biblical speech. I mean, have you heard these guys talk about the Bible? It's an embarrassment. So it's a no-brainer that Watchtower's going down. And, you know, they actually think that, you know that saying that their poop don't stink. And this is what happens when you surround yourself with people that are always kissing your butt and saying, yes, you're the greatest, you're the greatest. This is the danger, and this is what you have. You know, management that believes that they really are chosen by Jehovah. And you're there.
I'm here. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, you're an amazing man, Gilbert. Yeah, you got some really deep thoughts there. I do understand what you're saying. Well, what do the kids really have? Nothing. Do more, do more, do more. But no, it makes sense. I mean, if the Watchtower really wants to get these kids, do something for them. Well, send them out in service. That'll do something. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, thank you. You're a good man. You're a good man. Thank you, Gilbert. All right. Who wants to come on? Anyone else want to say something before we move to the next story? All right, let's move on then. I don't know. I saw it this week. I usually don't get too deep into the child sex abuse. Before we do, though, we do have another caller. Does someone want to come on? 312. Is that you, Stephen? Okay.
Yeah, that was me. I just had a quick thought. You know, you were talking about the youth in this pioneer program and all that, and I was just thinking that Watchtower, in finding their CSA allegations, they claim that they don't really have any, you know, one-on-one contact with the kids and all that. So their hands are going to be kind of tied to that in terms of whatever programs they can put up for young ones, because they went to judges and courts all around the world and told them that they don't really have any direct dealing for young ones. Now, that's exactly what they want to do. How do you go about doing that when you tell courts that you don't have those kinds of programs? So it really kind of ties your hands right at that. And I just had a quick question. Now's a bad time. If you don't know, just tell me to, ask it another time. Do you happen to know if the amount of money that Watchtower receives from the U.S. government as a part of this charitable 501c3 or whatever it is that based on the number of members in the organization? In other words, more members, more money, the converse. Do you happen to know that?
I do. It's what it is in the United States. That doesn't apply. They don't get any money for being a charitable organization. They get tax breaks. But they don't receive money. In the United Kingdom and some other countries in Europe, they get an amount of money for every Jehovah's Witness they have. So example, yeah.
So
So
it varies by country.
by country, but it's in the millions of dollars, and it's not just Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah, that might, I was thinking that because that might be another reason for people who are like me, who are sitting on the fence deciding to disassociate or just leave it alone. And I was thinking, you know, if they're getting money because my name is on some list, even though I am not a witness and I wouldn't, you know, I have nothing to do with the witnesses, but my name is still on some list, and Watchtower still benefits. That might be another reason to go and get write that letter of disassociation. Like you said, a very.
Oh yeah.
Thanks, Rick.
Well, you're very welcome. In fact, even the country of Norway, as we discussed here on the news, obviously they are not happy with the Jehovah's Witnesses in their country. They don't like the idea of Jehovah's Witnesses shunning. So because of their shunning policies and the Watchtower not wanting to correct it, Norway has pulled their funding. The funding in Norway alone amounts to I believe it was 1.2 million, 1.7 million. I'm not quite sure, but over $1 million in funding that Norway gave to the witnesses. But they just pulled the plug. They just pulled the plug. And that's what the world has to do. Start pulling the plug on these bounds. Thank you, Stephan. I'm going to put a picture up. I'm going to put a picture up right here. Now, this picture right here, I'm going to put it up on Facebook and YouTube. That, what you're looking at, is the courthouse up in Maine. Did you see this story this week? Usually I don't get too deep into CSA, child sex abuse stories. Goodness only knows there's so much of it floating around in the world of the witnesses. But this one really got my attention. Well, it's a New England state. It's the state north of me. So what I'm looking at is the courthouse, but I'm looking at what took place in that courthouse this week. It was absolutely disgusting. And I'll give you some of the details, but we're looking at a man, a Jehovah's Witness man, an elder, as a matter of fact. He's been removed since. But his name is Ernie Finus. Ernie Finus. Brother Finus. Let's go with that. Now, he was a child molester, sexually assaulting children, his own 2 daughters, and another girl that went to the Kingdom Hall. And one of the man's daughters said he tied her down and molested her. Tied her down. Can you imagine that? Tying your own daughter down and then sexually molesting her. And then the other daughter said that he had raped her repeatedly over 9 years. Now, well, what I saw is evil and disgusting. I'll take this picture off. But what I saw is evil and destructive here. Is he would take he took one of his daughters out in the woods, and he showed her where he would bury each of her body parts if she told what he was doing to her. Can you imagine a father doing that to his child? And this man's a Jehovah's Witness, supposedly the only true Christian organization on the planet. This is terrible stuff you're reading here. Friends, this is disgusting to beyond what you would ever want to hear. It's unbelievable. So also the girl that wasn't one of his daughters, well, she was raped in her home when she was 4 years old by Brother Finnis. Brother Finnis. Oh, what a nice, and he was an elder at the time. So they finally caught up with him just recently, and they just fellowshipped him. Well, it's about time. And they just fellowshipped him after he confessed to molesting one of his daughters. But this is disgusting because he also was molesting his daughters, and because the elders didn't get the right report from one of the daughters, well, he was still an elder. They kept him as an elder. Okay. So, yeah, so that's what's going on. Friends, I'm going to take just 1 second here. I've got to just go see my wife. If someone wants to speak in and talk for a couple of seconds, that would be good to a couple of minutes. And I'll get back to the story, but I just got to go tend to her. She hasn't been feeling good lately. So just give me a couple of minutes. Is there anybody out there that would like to come on?
I'm here, Rick.
Okay, go ahead, Anne Marie. Yep.
Yeah, how's everybody feeling about what's been bringing out so far, what Rick has been talking about? I mean, just that last thing he said about this elder being so horribly abusive. You know, anybody have any comments about the push to make children join the youth group or the molesting and how the Watchtower is the way we go?
Yeah, and this is. Hello?
Go ahead, Bob. Go ahead, Bob. Go ahead.
Right here.
Yeah, this is Thomas Hans, Dolores, Kansas. How are you?
Hi, Thomas.
Nice to hear you. Really enjoy the program. The young ones like that, I think the Watchtower is getting more and more desperate because they know a young person be brought up in this kind of environment, they have a much greater chance of calling them into doing a lot of things that would make them feel more conformed to the Watchtower standards. And then when they get older, a lot older, why they'll just give them everything they got. That's what they're trying to do. It's all about money. These are con men. This is a very evil criminal organization. It's a death cult, and this is what they want to do. They're run by Satan, the devil, all the way. And we see that these things being manifested more and more. And that's why we're seeing a lot of people leave this organization. More and more people are finally waking up. And that's why they keep talking about apostates all the time, because they know that we're winning the battle. We're really winning. I think there's more apostates out there now than are Jehovah's Witnesses. I really believe that.
No, you're so right, Thomas. It's like I always say the reason why the Watchtower spends so much time from the platform and in their literature vilifying and demonizing and talking horribly and lying about apostates, basically ex-members. They never say, don't listen to ex-members. They always say apostates. And they have made up a very ugly definition of the word apostates. And the reason why they're doing this to try to keep their loyal members hating us and even hearing the word, making them get a sick feeling in their stomach. They're afraid of us and they want the rank and file to see us as like demons, basically little servants of Satan. It's because of what we know. Rick has even made reference to witnesses who are questioning. We call them PIMQs. Physically, they're in the Watchtower, they're in good standing, but mentally they have questions or seeing too much and they can't just swallow it down. Rick has made mention of the PIMQs calling in and asking him, what does this mean? What do you know about such and such? We heard this. Could you explain it? Because Watchtower continues to cover up and lie and twist the truth, and to also constantly give veiled threats to the rank and file where they know they're getting the clear message to keep quiet, be obedient, just listen and obey, don't ask questions or you will be labeled an apostate. Anybody else want to comment? Thank you so much for coming in, Thomas, so much. Go ahead, Cheery.
Since this thing has started in Pennsylvania, the next door neighbor, we're talking about people waking up. There's next door neighbor that I deal with. She's a witness. She's been a witness since the 80s. I've known her for years. She's about 5-10 years older than me. And she woke up to the fact that there is something going on in Pennsylvania, and that there's something going on with Tony Morris. She knows that, all right? But she is still in doctrinally. I talked with her about a month ago, 2 months ago, something like that. And this is the comment she made. She said, I told her about them buying the house. I believe that's what it was. And she says, I wonder what else they're covering up. She said she used the word they. I wonder what else they are covering up there. Well, she's making reference to the Watchtower. Okay? But I call her 5 days later and she's writing letters because she's a pioneer sister. And she's getting in her time. I mean, she's woke up to the fact that there's possibly got some child abuse going on, that was up there in Pennsylvania, but she's still writing letters for that organization. Now, the other side of the coin is I talked with a guy about a year ago who's been an elder for years, and he says that he doesn't agree with everything that the governing body says. He says he takes it with the greatest
medical matters, but where was he at in the morning before I talked to him? He said he was out in service. Why would you go out in service if you don't agree with it? You know, I know. Yeah, it's like that brother from England says. It's not about being right. It's not about being wrong. It's their community. They got so much in front of them. They got to leave behind. They just don't want to do it. You know. It's wild.
No, that is a good point. It's almost like double speak, you know, in George Orwell's book, double speak. You know what to say and what you're supposed to say, but you know that there are basically two different messages you're getting, and you know you have to portray this and believe that, but yet your brain says, that's not exactly how it is, but I still believe that. Anyway, thank you, Chewy, so much for chiming in. Does anybody like to comment before listening? Yeah, and go ahead.
You know, you were on earlier this gentleman that you spoke with on your show. He was talking about that if he even thought of an insurance on people running over. That was the same way that a lot of us were in, probably the same way. And it makes me, I can never understand how a person, like what Rick just mentioned, was molesting his own daughters, threatening to kill them, and showing them where in the woods he would bury their body parts. How do you go to the meeting day in and or week in and week out and get dressed and go sit there and read the Bible and pray? I can't understand how you could do that and then go home and commit the most heinous crime of rape against your own family members. I cannot
represent
why.
Go ahead.
I can't. And then to the comment that Chewy just made, where the elder says, "Yeah, I take what they say with grain of salt. You still died with the find your sister. What else are they covering up? And she's still letting loose." There's cognitive dissonance that has to be in their mind where you're sitting there entertaining these two diametrically opposed thoughts at the exact same time. It seems to me that would drive you insane.
Exactly. You know, just real quick, 2 Corinthians 11, verse 13 in the New World Translation talks about these evil men that are so easy, they find it so easy to present themselves as smiling, loving, good Christian spiritual people. But what 2 Corinthians 11:13 in the New World Translation says, for such men are false apostles, deceitful workers, disguising themselves as apostles of Christ, and no wonder, for Satan himself keeps disguising himself as an angel of Christ. It is therefore nothing extraordinary if these apostles of Satan disguise themselves as ministers of righteousness. The thing is not the devil masterful at deceit, at portraying himself to being so wonderful. So, you know, it's hard for us I'll just say normal people who are not evil, who do not believe. We abhor child molesting. We can't even imagine looking at our little child, our little daughter or son, our little granddaughter or grandson. Imagine somebody putting their hands on their child and doing that. Somebody molested one of my little babies, not my personal baby, but baby in my family. And it was so, it was so horrendous. I saw it, I saw the evidence, but I couldn't wrap my head around it. Who could be so evil to not only do something like that to a child, but to take their own little baby girl and take them and say, this is where I'll bury your body parts if you say anything. And then go to the meetings and everybody's, oh, hi, Brother Elder. Oh, it's so good to see you, Brother Elder. Anybody want to comment? Go ahead.
How does a person like that even get to be in health? Where is the quote-unquote Holy Spirit that's supposed to actually do the determining of whether a person can be a ministerial servant and then health? It doesn't let you know that there is no Holy Spirit, or if there is, it is an operative in that organization.
You know, brother, that is such a good point. there is no Holy Spirit, and we know it's true because the governing body, representatives of the Watchtower, have admitted openly from the platform, in interviews, and actually in print that they are not inspired. That's just like saying we don't have Holy Spirit, but yet in the other side of their mouth, oh, if anybody's sinning in the organization, in the congregation, Jehovah will remove their Holy Spirit, and the elders will know, and they'll be finding whoever is taking the Holy Spirit away. They always act like Holy Spirit guides them, but yet they admit it doesn't. They speak in both sides of their mouth. And how you can know that Watchtower does not have God's Holy Spirit, and that therefore they are not God's organization, because if it was really God's organization, you would have to assume that God's Holy Spirit would be with the Watchtower. 2 Corinthians 3:17 in the New World Translation, 2 Corinthians 3:17 says, now Jehovah is the Spirit. And that's Holy Spirit. And where the Spirit of Jehovah is, there is freedom. There's your evidence right there that Watchtower could not possibly be God's organization, because there is no freedom. In fact, it is the most hideous, insidious form of entrapment and slavery you could possibly imagine, because they not only have your body and your life, they have your family, they have your soul, your conscience, and your brain. Rick, are you there yet?
I agree.
Go
This is Julie again.
ahead. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
We just wait a minute. I just want all of us to be cognizant. When Rick comes back, we all stop talking. But right now, we talk until Rick comes back. Okay, go ahead, Julie.
Okay, the one more example on this thing that's waking up. I have a friend of mine who we grew up together. We used to pioneer together. He's a very educated, very well-educated man. He has got a PhD in historical linguistics, and he teaches Spanish at a very Ivy League college, so he knows his stuff. But he's still in. And he came down, and we've had a few little differences where we wouldn't talk, and he kind of cut me off there a little bit. And this time here, he called me. He said, I'm coming down in a week. And I could tell by the enthusiasm from his voice that there was something a little different. So he come down, we started talking. And boy, he had all sorts of questions about Pennsylvania, acknowledged that stuff was going on, and this and that. And I got really antsy. I got some euphoria going on, some that. And I said, you know what? I want to make a phone call. I made a phone call to Rick. He said, don't go any further. Just let him ask the questions. And that's what I did. I let him ask the questions. So, all right.
Well, good to hear it, Chewy.
And I said, I'm going to, if he says anything to me, I am going to limit my conversation to Pennsylvania. That's it. That's all I'm going to do. Well, about a week later, he goes back. I haven't talked with him. And I said, there's an update on Tony Morris. And that's the same day that the Selena Bartoloma video came out. And he had already seen it. He had already punched something. And boy, that turned him off. He said, that's true, blah, blah, blah. And that turned him off. And 2 weeks later, he texted me by accident, and he was going to do a study. And he is actually pioneering. He's pioneering around the Pennsylvania area. You know? And he's pioneering.
Thank you so much, Chewy. Oh, okay, thank you so much for sharing that. My brother Rick, are you?
I'm right back here now, Anne Marie. I'm right back here. Yes, in fact, once in a while I have to. The last couple of weeks, my wife Susan, I'll just give you a little update. She was in the hospital for a week. She had severe pain issues. She's a chronic pain patient. She had a disease, you could call it, I guess, that, or a problem with what they call TN. Trigeminal neuralgia. And what it is the facial pain, because it's been attacked by shingles or whatever years ago, it's damaged. And she needed an operation on the back. It was a brain operation, really. She needed that in order to straighten it out, because it's called the suicide disease. Trigeminal neuralgia is a very, very bad problem. And then when she had an operation for that, they found out she had a deteriorated jaw. So they had to take her jaw out and put a steel jaw in. So it's really caused a lot of pain for her. So she was in the hospital for a week, but she's still suffering from it. So that's why I have to step in there from time to time and work along with her here to try to get her pain under control. But thank you guys for being supportive and understanding. But we'll get her better. We're going to get her better. She'll be right back on here with me soon. So I just wanted to let you know and give you a little update. She's going to get better. I have no doubt that she won't, but it takes a little time. So anyways, let's go back to our story about the brother up there in Maine. Chewy, did you finish your story? I'm not sure. Okay, so let's go back to that brother up in Maine. Yes.
You know, I just wanted to comment to Chewy's thoughts about all of that. Was just that, you know, again, you guys, a lot of you know that I was in Worldwide Church of God, which is half Jehovah's Witness, half Jewish in my way of looking at it. But I was doing a thing that I called a dance later on, where I'm in and then I'm out and then I'm in and then I'm out. Until eventually you stay out longer than you're in, and it's hard to put your head and wrap your head around the atrocities, the betrayal, all of it. You just want to, you don't want to believe it, and so you just struggle in your mind to come to grips with it. And so I just guess I want to say, I know I said this before about this thing I call the dance, but I just think that it's just what we do when we're coming out of a cold, and because we're just trying to wrap our head around it. So we'll be in denial at times, kind of like when someone dies, you're in denial and you bargain with God, you do all kinds of things, but eventually, you know, you come to terms with that more and more and more. And then some people don't, just like the grieving process, they don't ever come out of, you know, some parts of it, and they stay stuck. Like maybe they stay stuck in the anger or even denial for a very, very long time, even years and years. They just can't do it. They can't make the shift. So we just have to have compassion in my way of looking at it, because if we're patient and we keep praying for them, they will eventually be able to make the shift. And if they don't, they don't, because it is hard to accept that someone would be that covert and that much lying and mean things that they do. It's hard to even wrap your head around it. And for those of us who are sensitive, we can't wrap our head around it for a long time. So anyway, that's all I had to say about that. I just wanted to comment on it.
Well, thank you, Angela. Always good to hear from you. Thank you very much. Yeah. So we have to take a look up there in Maine again with this elder that was raping his two daughters, molesting them, and also another girl in the congregation. I hope they bring this guy back to Bethel to hang him. Really, some of the things he did was just absolutely pathetic. But then there were other Jehovah's Witness men involved as well. Now, this is not the first time here in the Six Screens. That's why I wanted to bring this story up tonight. Other Jehovah's Witnesses men involved as well, raping these children. This is like a porn ring or pedo ring, right? It's a pedo ring. And it's going on in the Watchtower. And it's going on more than we would ever think. But I mean, this man's going to be punished, and he's going to be punished badly. And let's hope that the judge throws the book at him. 341, you're on with us. Did you want to say something? 341, come on. Okay, you can unmute yourself by hitting *6. Okay.
Your wife is a fucking whore. She out.
Well, there you go. You have these guys coming in once again. That want to create issues and problems. And, you know, those are drunken Bethelites, as I always say. They come into the program and they want to just mess around and say all kinds of nasty things. Okay, so let's move on. Let's see what else is going on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. Did you, well, I'll tell you what, the witnesses were studying. Yep. Okay, let's get rid of him. All right, so the witnesses, I mean, they are studying articles lately that you are going to say, hey, wait a minute, how much longer are you going to be preaching about the Great Tribulation? I mean, when we were witnesses, that's all the Watchtower talked about is the Great Tribulation. Well, they're doing it once again in the Watchtower, July 2023. They are now talking about they just had the study article and now dealing with the Great Tribulation again. I'm going to put a picture up. I want to put this picture up. I'd like to have you see it. Let me do this right now. so that you'll get an idea of what we're talking about. This is the picture in the Watchtower that they just studied recently. And I must tell you, again, they are trying to fearmonger you. Take a look at that picture. You can see it right there on YouTube and Facebook. You can see them all hunkering down, all gathering together in some type of a bunker somewhere. And of course, you see them all dressed up and moving forward, getting away from the Great Tribulation. So, this is just another way to terrify the witnesses. This is just another way to get the witnesses all riled up and, oh, we got to draw closer to Jehovah. So, I'm just wondering how in the new system they're going to be able to have tablets in their bunker. I mean, even during the Great Tribulation, they're going to have tablets in their bunker. I mean, where's the Wi-Fi going to come from? Where's the Wi-Fi speeds going to be coming from? I guess the world is going to be ending, but there'll still be internet in power. I mean, the biggest cataclysmic event that ever took place on the planet is going to take place in Jehovah's Witness world, and they're going to still have internet and power when everything's going to be destroyed. How does this make any sense? How do you make sense out of nonsense? It's just absolutely crazy. Well, I mean, I have to tell you that this is what the Watchtower is continuing to do. Get ready for the Great Tribulation. How many times have we heard that? How many times have we heard it? It's just absolutely nuts. Well, in fact, when I'm showing all of these people too, look at that picture that you're seeing right now on my YouTube channel and Facebook channels. Look at that picture. You never see a disabled or a chronically sick person, do you? Look at it. It's all pretty much young people, or people able to walk, and they all have nice clothes on. I mean, is this really real when you stop and think about it? They put these pictures in the Watchtower that are totally unreal. But yet, I mean, you don't see real people. You don't see pregnant women. You don't see babies. I mean, that's the real world we live in. But they always show pictures of grandioseness and how wonderful it is to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses. All right, so I'll bring that story up. Now let's see. Emery, do you want to say something?
Oh, I'm sorry. I just am noticing in this picture of Jehovah's Witnesses walking out of the world being destroyed, all of the witness women, there's 1, 2, 3, they're all wearing pants. When did that happen?
Well, no, in fact, I'm noticing it too. You would think it would be in dress, but yeah, they're all wearing pants.
Yeah, there's 4 of them. That's crazy. And the other thing is, they're always, ever since I can remember, keeping the rank and file on high alert. It's like, Armageddon's coming. Oh my God, Armageddon's coming. Are you ready for Armageddon? What if Armageddon comes? What are we going to do? How long can you keep up the enthusiasm, and how long can you keep up the fear mongering where they're on constant high alert? It's almost like being in the middle of World War II, worrying about the siren for the air raids. It was horrible. I'm sorry for interrupting. Thank you, Rick.
Well, thank you, Emery. No, that's good. I'm glad you noticed that. I mean, we see different things. I didn't notice that, but yeah, they're all wearing pants. And women in the Watchtower world are told not to. I mean, at least out in service and going to the meetings. But it's kind of interesting you notice that. So anyways, I come across this information this week on the internet, nighttime cart witnessing. Many Jehovah's Witnesses are showing up at airports in the middle of the night. And they're doing their cart witnessing at an airport. So imagine 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, you got people coming off an airplane, tired as can be, and they're walking through the airport and they see a cart witnessing, Jehovah's Witness. Do you think they're going to stop and yak about religion? They're not. So a lot of witnesses going to airports late at night. Unbelievable. When you stop and think about it, that's going to be so unproductive. And then in North Carolina, we see that many of the witnesses are showing up in their carts at special sporting events. basketball, and figure skating, and other events. And it's at night. It's past 9 o'clock for the most part, and the witnesses are out there with their carts trying to get as many people to come into the cult as they can. It's a recruiting exercise. And now also we have in Denmark some other information I got coming across the net this week. Well, what they're doing in Denmark, a pioneer, they're calling this super dogging. Yeah, in other words, super dogging pioneering. Now, what that is the pioneers are going to go for 24 hours nonstop witnessing. Yeah, you heard me right. Super dogging. That's what they're calling it in Denmark. 24 hours non-stop witnessing. They're going around the city at night trying to find someone to talk to. Isn't that absolutely nutty? Super dogging over there in Denmark. And also, there's many witnesses even in this country that are putting 16 hours a day in pioneering. Yeah, they start off early in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, and they go to gas stations and laundromats, even earlier than that. They might start at 2 in the morning. And then once it gets around a normal time, around 9:30, then they go door to door. And then back at the evenings, they go back to the gas stations. And they stay there late at night at truck stops and what have you to try to find anyone to witness to. Would you do that? Have you ever heard of that? Well, I have to tell you, I have heard that. In fact, when I lived in Florida, there was a group, we called them the Midnight Witnesses. And they started service at 12 o'clock in the morning. And they would go to gas stations. And they would try to witness to anybody that, while they're pumping gas, while they're buying a candy bar or cigarettes, the witnesses would try to be witnessing to them. Did you ever get involved in midnight witnessing? Boy, I'll tell you, I didn't do it. They wanted me to do it, but there was no way I was going to go out late at night. Would you want your wife or daughter or son going out at night, witnessing to people in gas stations? I don't think you would. Has anyone out there ever participated? Is there anyone listening to this? Yes.
Yes, Dan.
Yes, Dan.
Yeah, I used to go out in the evening, not real late, but like 8 o'clock, and I never got yelled at so much in all my life. It was like, what the hell are you doing at my door? Yeah, people were eating, but we were trying to get our hours in. And I've also done early morning, when we pioneered, when you were working, you had to go out, before work. So we would go out at 4:30 or 5, and we would drive around. And it was like you said, we went to all the laundromats, and there were usually, honest to God, Rick, there was usually 8 or 10 Watchtower and Awakes in each one, and we just dumped ours in there. Because you remember how many we used to have, hundreds. And one day we went down the street, we went to all the bus stations, and we threw all our magazines inside the bus thing. And we went to all the 7-Elevens. It got to the point, Rick, I swear to God, when you went to a 7-Eleven, one of the guys would hold up literally 100 magazines and say, no more, no, don't drop them off here. You know what I'm saying? Isn't that crazy, Rick?
Absolutely nuts.
So we would just, I don't know, we were just getting rid of our magazines, and then we'd go to the meeting and say, I placed, 100 magazines this month. And it was just stupid, Bill. And the worst thing we've ever done was we put them in a bus station one day, and this is a true story. A wind came up, a really high wind, and I'm telling you, there were tracts and magazines all over the streets, and it was insane. But Rick, this is really disgusting what you're doing. This is 100% sales. I've been listening. These kids. I mean, they have no freedom. Yeah, and they're almost setting up. You said it earlier. They're almost setting up the brothers so they compete with one another, and the children so they compete with one another. Brother Reynolds, his son, they went out, they pioneered. What do you think? Are they getting so many hours? Is that like a commitment they have to make, Rick? Like so many hours? Do they write the hours they're going to commit to, or does the Watchtower have a certain amount of hours that they want them to commit to?
Oh no, there's an actual farm, and
oh my God.
it's a farm. It's little Bobby, brother Bobby Smith. He's 11 years old, and he has to put down on the line how many hours he can spend in service, September, October, November, and he's making a pledge to Jehovah that he's going to do that. Imagine that.
I can't stand it. I cannot stand it. A pledge. I mean, you imagine a pledge. And like you say, the guilt, the parents, well, you pledged it, you said it already. You pledged to Jehovah, now finish those hours. And I mean, my God, and all this, I don't know, man. It sounds like desperation. It sounds crazy, but to me, it's very disgusting. When I heard you say that in that little paper, and I'm going to say something a little different than Gigi, but I think they're brilliant marketers because they're finding everything they can do, every little thing. All these commitments they're putting people under. They're putting a noose around their neck. I just sit back from a marketing point of view and I think, wow, get the kids committed, get them competing with each other, get the adults committed, get them competing with each other, lower the hours, let them wear the badge of pioneer, cut the hours in half. I mean, that's pretty brilliant. It's evil, but it's brilliant. And so, but they just turn them into workhorses, Rick. It's just disgusting to sit back and listen to it. It's amazing. So anyway, that's all I want to say, Rick.
Well, Dan, that's blow your mind. No, in fact, good comments, good narrative. But I have to tell you, when an organization or a company is desperate, and the Watchtower is desperate right now, they are hemorrhaging. They know darn well that people don't want to be witnesses. They're going to the meetings, they're faking it. The Watchtower knows all of that. We know it, they know it. But what happens when a company or an organization like the Watchtower gets desperate? They will try anything. At this point, they have nothing to lose. They really don't. So they're going to throw everything they can into the mix to try to get people to become Jehovah's Witnesses or stay witnesses. Everything. They'll lie through their teeth to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Can I make one more comment?
Sure,
Rick?
of course you can.
I wanted to make a comment. There's a truck riding their car next to me. I hope they can still hear me.
Yeah.
But anyway, one of the things that got me out, this was key. The lady that was helping me out of the witnesses, here's one thing she told me that set me free. Because I wondered, how the hell did I get out? How did I run so fast after 40 years of it? I never turned back. I was scared. I had to work through some of that stuff. But I ran out. I never turned back. And I thought, I was thinking about it the other day, and I realized what she said. You want to know what she said? She said, Dan, you can always go back. And I said, really? She goes, yeah, you can always go back. Just think about that. You can take a year off, you can go back, right? Can you go back? She says, and I said, yeah. She says, you can sit in the back of the hall, and you can do this, and you can do that. And I was like, okay. And that was it for me, Rick. In my mind, I was like, my God, I can go back. Yeah, I can take a little time and think about this thing. And so that set me free. And the other thing I want to say, Rick, is one more thing. Oh, I had to pointed to something. Anyway, lost my thought real quick. But anyway, it had to do with that. But anyway, that set me free, Rick. And, here's the other thing I wanted to say. Yeah, the governing body, always says you apostates, you're trying to get people out, you're trying to, we're liars and all this stuff. But the truth of it is, Rick, I have told people to stay. My brother, my mother, I would never tell them. That's the only hope they have. But honestly, Rick, there's some people that are so fried mentally. Watchtower has fried their brains so bad. They fried my brother's brain. They fried my mother's brain. There was nobody left. I wasn't going to destroy that. And I saw my mother, and she said, Dan, you left Jehovah. I said, I never left Jehovah, Mom. I still love Jehovah. I just left out the organization. I don't, like you said, Rick, we don't need a religious organization to serve God. Even Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in me with all your heart, and I myself will make your path straight. So I told people to go back. I told them to stay in. In fact, one of the things I do when I talk to people who come to my door is I try to ascertain whether they're happy or not. Is this guy happy? Is he totally fulfilled? And I might listen to him, but I'm not trying to, I don't go off on anybody. I usually listen to them. And I might throw around a few things. What do you think about 75 or the generation, or see what their knowledge is? But most of them are totally brainwashed. there's nobody home. And so, Rick, I've seen some people that are really bad, a lot of people that can't get on their feet. They don't know what to do without the organization. The Watchtower has enabled them like a drug. And Watchtower has become a crutch to them. They don't know what to do without Watchtower. Watchtower is still telling them how to think, how to do this, how to do that. I mean, they still talk to them like babies. Jehovah loves you. Let's play this song. Jehovah loves you. You know, and it's like, this is ridiculous. I was listening to a song the other day, and I was listening to some other things. I forget what it was. So, you know, but we were listening to something the other day, and we were still doing baby talk. And I told Angela, like, maybe it's because the people grew up in there, and they've been talking to them like a child. So now they're 50, 60 years old, 70, and they're still talking to them like they're babies. But I don't know, Rick. I've told people to stay in. They were so crippled, they couldn't get on their own 2 feet. They don't know how to function without it. And I say, you know, maybe you're better off there, you know. Anyway, that's my thoughts, Rick.
Well, those are good thoughts, Dan. Those are good thoughts. Thank you very much for sharing that. Anyways, in fact, Dan, why don't you do this? Why don't you talk to the audience for a few minutes? I've got to get up and I just got to check the door here, see what's going on. Okay.
Okay.
So again, talk to the audience a little bit. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Hey, Dan, anybody? Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, Dan, this is Gigi. Man, you're on fire. And but I was going to ask
I'm just rambling on, Gigi. I'm just rambling on.
well, you're on fire. Everything you're saying was right on the money. But I'm just going to go quick. Probably about an hour, I'm going to go live after the show. But I have this question. If you're a Jehovah's Witness elder's wife, if you're a woman, I want to talk about this in about an hour. If you're a wife of a Jehovah's Witness elder in Pennsylvania, at what point do you sit down with your husband and say, you know what? I'm not going to lose my house. I'm not going to lose my retirement. I'm not going to lose this and that because you're playing this little game in the Kingdom Hall. And when is a woman going to sit down with her husband and say, you're going to cooperate with the police, whether what you know or don't know? Because at some point, what's happening in Pennsylvania, the Watchtower is not going to give 1 penny to the elders as far as legal help. Right. They're not going to include them. So I think the women need to stand up. The Jehovah's Witness women need to stand up and tell their husbands it's over. It's over. Or jeopardizing our life.
That is a brilliant point. That is brilliant. Because you're right. Yeah, because the Watchtower is going to walk away from them, you know?
That's why I'm GG for GB. I mean, come on. You know, come on. That's it.
That's
it. But I mean, just think about that. I mean, women should be thinking about this and helping other women with this.
And honestly, GG, women are usually on top of it. Women are usually, you know, my wife, she's not the finance person, man. She's got a magnifying glass. And I think she would look at her husband one day and slap in the face and say, hey, you know, hey, we're not going to lose everything. You know, come on now. What you got? You know, you tell me, I know you want to be a ministerial servant, play elder, or whatever you do. But we got to stop this. You got to get out of the big boys club because, well, we can't. Like you said, Watchtower owns the hall, but the problems belong to the people. How stupid is that?
But don't you guys think that if the woman did do that, she'd be immediately put out of the church and then she'd be out on the street? Just saying.
Yeah, all these things are possibilities, man. It's just, but a woman is thinking about. She's thinking about like what's going to happen with my pension, what's going to happen with my home. Am I going to lose it? The lawyers are going to be ruthless. The state of Pennsylvania is going to want money. Go ahead. I'm done.
You know, to a certain point, I think a lot of the sisters do not even know that they're making the responsibility go on to their husbands. How would they know? They keep things secretive, and so even though the elders know that the responsibility is on them, they don't always tell their wife, and the wife doesn't always know.
Good point. Good point. You know something else I thought? This is Larry Wayne, John Wayne?
Yeah.
Yeah, here's what I think about the witnesses. I saw somebody stand up in there. There was a bunch of girls. It was a video. And they all stood up in the middle of the meeting and they all held up signs, you know, I was raped, I was abused, you know, and they started talking and the elders were trying to tell them to leave. All the people, I swear to God, it was almost like they put their heads can't hear this. They're so brainwashed. They're so brainwashed. But I think Gigi's right. You start somewhere. But I think if anyone, a lot of women are pretty sharp. I mean, a lot of women, they don't tolerate that shit when it comes to money. I mean, probably guys too. But I know my wife. She notices things. The IRS calls and says you owe this, and she's like, bullshit. I got a paper right here, and we paid that. And what do you think, Andrew?
Well, I just think if they dare said anything, their husband would lock them out of the bank account, and they wouldn't be able to do anything, and they're going to be entirely screwed. So I think it's a scary thing to say anything, and I feel for them. But I think if they do make the decision to say something, they need to prepare themselves ahead of time where they're going to live, who they're going to live with, what they're going to do to make a living. They need to prepare and make plans in case things go very south very fast.
Hey, Angela, I would advise Jehovah's Witness woman who's married to an elder, and there's pedophiles, she's suspected there's pedophiles. I would invite her to have an attorney come over for dinner and not advise her husband. And says, honey, I brought a friend over. And then what are you eating? Says, honey, elder, because you are putting the family at jeopardy. This guy's a divorce attorney, and he's going to lecture you on what you're doing and how you're hurting our family. And she should leave the room. She should leave the room. These Jehovah's Witness men need their wives to just lay the law down. And there's nothing wrong with it on either direction. A good marriage, a man lays the law down, and then a good marriage, a woman lays the law down. They both have to say, we will not cross this line. And I really do believe that the Jehovah's Witness women need to say, you will not cross this line. You're not going to put our family's life in jeopardy to defend Watchtower.
Gilbert, is that you?
Yeah.
Are we talking about marriage now?
No, I think it's an open forum.
I don't know what the point is, but I'd like to talk to Gigi for a second.
Go ahead.
Hey, how's it going out there?
Yeah, that's key to that. Go ahead.
Yeah. You hit me, Gigi. Can you hear me? How's it going out there in Yuma?
Hot. We are
What about the immigration situation? What's up the situation?
They're coming over, man. They're coming over. We will all be speaking Spanish soon.
I do believe that. I really do. Now, I want to talk about marriage here because people may not realize this, but according to my wife, I'm the perfect husband. I'm actually the perfect husband. And that gets a total silence, I notice. Yeah. Well, anyway, but it's all about freedom. Your wife needs to feel free to express herself. I don't know how many times people tried to tell my wife or me that I was a weak-head family. I heard it many, many times. It's because I will not be in front of people and try to correct my wife. How stupid is that? Try to lead her or hush her, which a lot of people will do. I mean, if you can't treat a woman like she's an adult, you don't deserve to marry a woman. Marry a man if you're that way, okay? I'm sorry. But I am the perfect husband, and if anyone wants to challenge me, I'm willing to listen to them. Anyone want to challenge me out there? Anyone want to call in and say, no, you can't possibly be the perfect husband? Well, I bet I have the longest marriage of anybody in the apostasy. I'll be married 44 years here in January. And I want to discuss this because when am I still on?
Yeah, you are.
Yeah. And here's
We're
what
listening.
I want people to know that God answers prayers. And sometimes even when you're a witness. I've been to a wedding reception the night before I met my wife, and I prayed to God, could you have a sister I could marry sit right next to me at the assembly the next day? Because the assembly was on district assembly. And she sat right next to me. You know why? She wanted my seat. I was sitting in front of the TV monitor. The brother who was running it, elder, turns out he was a child molester. Interestingly. But she waited the whole time wanting my seat. So we got to know each other. And I told her I'd give her tapes because I taped everything. I'm a tapeaholic. And we got engaged a week later. And people were very upset. I had elders try to stop me. I've revealed this, and I got kicked off the internet for talking about Hayden Covington's situation. But his son-in-law physically accosted me, grabbed me, fiercely shook me, and demanded that I break up an engagement. And I called him up on my 40th anniversary. I got his wife, Hayden's daughter. And I told him, I want you to tell your husband, I'm so glad I didn't listen to him. So I've been married almost 44 years, and I'm very proud of that accomplishment. Much more proud than of anything I ever did at Watchtower. So, yeah, I've actually called 2 other elders and told them that too. I'm glad I didn't listen to you.
Well, I think that you respect your wife. I really do. And that you honor her, because that's not something that I think is common. I just don't. And I think a lot of women in the Jehovah's Witnesses and in the Worldwide Church of God that I grew up in, the men are not taught to respect the women or their opinion.
Dan's wife?
Yeah, Dan's wife, right.
Okay. I was originally interested in the Worldwide Church of God before I got involved with Jehovah's Witnesses. And I'll tell you right now, if they had more meeting places, I probably would have become in the Worldwide Church of God, Garner Ted Armstrong and Herbert W. Armstrong. I really like their teachings. And I believe, don't they believe in a Trinity, not a Trinity?
Right, they don't believe that they do not believe in the Trinity, that's right.
That's right, yeah. Which I kind of lean towards divinity too. But they've got all this Anglo-Judaic teaching going on that supposedly the 12 tribes of Israel,
Right.
Jeremiah became the king in Ireland, and they moved to the U.S. I think the Mormons are involved in that Anglo-Judaism thing, and it's very bizarre. It smacks of white nationalism.
Rick is back. Can we wrap it up? Rick is back. He's waiting.
Well, yeah, if you don't want, just say so, okay? Yeah, thank you so much.
All right. Well, here we are. Well, King of Dots. No, go ahead. Finish up, King of Dots. Finish up your statement. Yeah. All right. Well, anyways, let's go back to where we were. So Dan said he got involved with the midnight witnessing. Yeah, I mean, they were trying to get me to do it as well, but I didn't. Anyone else there? Anyone else feel that they would have? Did you get bamboozled? Did you go out midnight witnessing? Did you? Well, now that they got the carts, they're going all over the place. But even before they had the carts, it was just going out and talking to people like we always used to do. Well, anyways, let's take a look.
Yeah, Rick.
Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
It's Eric.
Oh, Eric, go ahead, Eric. Yeah.
When you were talking about the midnight witnessing, I think you brought it up last week too, and I don't want to repeat myself too much, but I used to do that, and then, like I was telling you, a bunch of us were all kids that were pioneering around the same time, like around 18, 20 years old, and it was just an excuse basically to get our time and have fun. We pick our car groups, and it's all kids. We're not with old people. We're just having a good time. And with the same experience, that store owners would be like, no more Watchtowers. That's it. Because I can't, the same would go, not just gas stations, the laundromats. They would all get aggravated with us. And there would be so many magazines left over, it would actually be embarrassing. The witnesses used to go and get them back and relieve the company or whatever it was that we just dumped these things off. So when they brag about their numbers, Rick, it's all fudge. Look how many placements we did. Yeah, Brother Silva, the guy that I was with, he's like 300 magazines in a week.
You know, I mean, it's not reaching anybody. And then the same that Dan said too. The same thing. It would blow because we would do downtown witnessing in downtown Providence, Rhode Island, and then we would see the magazines that we dropped off, and they're just all flying in the wind. We would see people thrown away right after they read it. One guy said to us, "Thanks. Now I got something to wipe my ass with." What's right? But my point being, Rick, is it's dangerous as well, and it's not effective. Because you know, you're going out in ministry at a time where no one's around.
Yeah, all the thugs are out. I mean, that's what I thought. Even I wouldn't let my daughters, they were pioneers, but I wouldn't let them go out late at night like that. That's very unsafe. Very unsafe. So thank you very much, Eric, for calling in and checking in with us tonight. Thank you very much. Gilbert, did you want to say something? All right. Well, anyways, friends, we're coming to the end of the program, but I just want to make a few suggestions here. If you like what you heard here tonight, you like our channel, go ahead and like us on Facebook, or share it on Facebook, or become a subscriber on YouTube if you want to do that. Now, tomorrow we have 6 Screens Sunday. We get some great programs starting tomorrow at 1 o'clock, so don't be a stranger. Check it out tomorrow. Same YouTube channel, same telephone line. And also, I have to tell you that we've kind of we've cut back on our late night programs here for the time being. I'm trying to take care of my wife here, Susan, and trying to get her better and work with her. So we have cut back on our late night programs for the time being. But I do see that there's some other programs. I know Aposta Babe and some others. I see we're coming across the YouTube stream here tonight that are going to start a program tonight. I think Gilbert as well. So why don't you step in if anyone out there has a program that they will be holding tonight on YouTube or a telephone line or whatever. Come on and tell us about it, because our late night programs have ended for the time being. So come on, say hello to us and let us know. I see that there was some posts. I know Aposta Babe was going to have a program late at night on her channel, and I think Gilbert as well. Gil, was that you? 602?
Yeah. I just want to talk about that. Well, I was telling Dan a little bit earlier about if you're a Jehovah's Witness elder wife, the women. What are you going to in Pennsylvania? You are in very you're in trouble legally, and listen, what I learned in sales when I did a lot of sales and people owed me money. A lot of people like who speak Spanish, Chinese, and everything, they all pretend not to know how to speak English. But whenever I owed them money, they spoke perfect English. So that's the whole point. Well, these Jehovah's Witnesses will say, well, I'm not going to listen to apostates. But when you're talking about actual money, that the state of Pennsylvania can actually go after your husband and put him in jail and maybe even fine him, and it's going to come out of your money as a wife, the family money. This, you know, that she's not going to say, well, I'm not going to listen to Rick because he's an apostate. She's going to be all ears. And so I'm not afraid. I don't think that Jehovah's Witness women will not get the message. And Rick, I really, if the state of Pennsylvania wants blood for what these men have allowed Watchtower to get away with, I really think these women need to get legal professional help to save their assets.
Well, I agree with you. Now, are you going to have a program tonight, Gilbert, 11 o'clock?
Yeah, in about an hour.
Well, let's let people know, so that, because we're gonna close this down here shortly. So let people know how they can get a hold of you tonight and listen to your program.
Yeah, GG for GB on YouTube, and at 7 o'clock, which is in 30 minutes.
All right. Well, yeah. Well, that's good, because we don't have our night programs. We cut them down, so that's so they can get into your program. Also, Carrie was on earlier talking about the Cult Network program. Carrie, are you around, Carrie? Yeah, so there's a number of programs you guys can watch after we shut down here. Usually 6 screens went all night, but you know, I don't mind promoting. I want people to listen in. I want people to learn more about how evil the Watchtower is. So let's support those programs. I know Apostle Babe was going to have a program. Hi, Larry. Yep.
Hey, yeah, road. I just want to call in and say I'm listening and enjoying. So I'm on my road. On the road, I was coming back from a convention. So sorry to call, Rick.
Yeah, no doubt. I'll get a hold of you this week, Larry. Perhaps we can do something late at night. We're trying to work in and out some of these problems right now. I've got some issues with Susan, my wife. She's been out of the hospital, and I'm going to run her back in tonight. She's having some issues as well. So when I shut the program down tonight, I'm gonna take it to Massachusetts General Hospital again. She's having some issues, so I got to get her in there. But we'll talk about getting fired up again. So for right now, we're holding back on our midnight programs. Thank you, though, Larry. I'll be in touch. All right. So anyways, I guess that's going to be it for tonight, folks. I really appreciate everyone that came in. And I really want you to know that we enjoy your presence. I think it's neat that people call in. I will have a 6 screens program. We will have a 6 screens program here Sunday, tomorrow, if all goes well. I'm going to bring Susan into the emergency room tonight. She's sick again on me, so I'm going to leave right now and do that. But did someone want to say anything before I leave? Yep.
Yes, sir, Rick, we want to say our best to Susan and that we love her and we hope she gets better really, really soon.
Well, thank you.
Back on the show.
Well, thank you very much. It's something that I've been dealing with here, but she has been having some issues. So she just got out of the hospital last week, but I'm going to run her into the emergency room tonight at MGH in Boston. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that, and I'll pass those words on to her. All right. Is that it? Did anyone else want to say something before? Yeah. Go ahead. You're on Mother Stick. Yep.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Just a little something on those sisters that are married to elders.
Yeah.
A lot of those sisters is supposed to be, with in a judicial meeting, it's the elders. It's just supposed to be the 3 elders and the accused. But the wives always know what's going on. At least most of the time they do. And if they're covering up pedophilia, that can really be a problem, because if the authorities find out, if one elder goes rogue and says, yeah, there's 5 other elders from covering up pedophilia, they could go to jail, because they're considered, I know in the JW world, well, they can actually go to jail, lose their houses. So those sisters better be aware that there are ramifications for covering up pedophilia. And if you need me, I'm here tonight.
Yeah, well, we're going to close the program down, Dick. We're ending our programs early in view of some of the issues I'm facing with Susan's health. When she's better, we'll more than likely start them up again. But I'm going to end the program early tonight. There'll be no program. When this program is over tonight, I'm running my wife in Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston. Yep.
We're going to pray for her, Rick.
Okay, thank you, Dick. All righty. Well, I'm going to let it go with that. I want to thank everyone for coming in tonight. And you guys keep standing tall. Don't you ever give in, up, or out. Keep waving that flag of victory. And we really appreciate you guys coming in. And the last one, leaving the Watchtower. By all means, turn off the new light. We'll see you next Saturday night right here on the 6 Screens Telenetwork. Thank you all.